Welcome to Perspective on Live. I'm Ivy with S&P Global. Today I'm interviewing Mr. Sid, Head of New Energies Asia with SMBC. So thank you for coming, Sid. And to begin with, my first question is, can you share with us the latest trend of investment? Like which sectors you see the most investment and which sectors see the biggest gap for finance?
So private investors tend to follow the sectors which has a bit more established business model. The risks are very well understood and the commercial structures are proven, technology is proven. So in terms of clean energy, we are obviously seeing biggest investments into the onshore wind and solar sector. But increasingly, I think some of the up-and-coming sectors, I would say, are offshore wind in the renewable space, EV charging and EV vehicles in the space of EV value chain. And also a lot of interest we are seeing on the back of some of the CFD schemes in hydrogen, especially green hydrogen development in this part of the world. And at SMBC, we are actively involved in trying to work with all these projects to see how we can make the capital available to some of those.
So actually you're talking about lower hanging fruits like renewables, EVs, but also higher hanging fruits of hydrogen, right? So for those higher hanging fruits, what are the key drivers to make it commercially viable at the current moment?
That's a very good question, and it differs by sector to sector. So if I focus on the hydrogen sector, I think the key requirement right now is the demand. There is a lot of focus on some of the supply projects, which I think a lot of work over the last few years have gone in to try and reduce the cost of hydrogen which is to be supplied, optimize the projects, optimize the transportation. But the demand part, especially for clean hydrogen, is currently lacking. And I think one big factor that will help the hydrogen sector would more CFD schemes, more subsidies or mandates that will help uptake of clean hydrogen. But when we start looking at something different, for example, carbon capture, I think the real requirement right now is for the right regulations to come up. A lot of carbon capture projects, especially in Asia, these are cross-border projects, and that would require G2G agreements, that would require right and reliable laws to be established so that people could invest on a long-term basis. So I would say that some of these projects, which are all billion-dollar projects and require a lot of capital, would require that certainty to be very clear or clarity for investors to come in.
For investors, you mean the public sector subsidies or also private sector's investment?
I would say it's going to be a partnership, but increasingly, if there is the right environment and right regulations, private sector is quite keen to take part in this project. And I think the public sector support would come in form of mandates, subsidies, CFD schemes.
So which countries are the key suppliers and buyers currently in the market for hydrogen? Can you give us some idea around this?
Yeah, so if you focus specifically on Asia, I think there are two countries which everybody is quite excited about. That's Japan and Korea. And that's partly because they are running processes to procure hydrogen, clean hydrogen on a long-term basis. So that becomes very exciting destinations for hydrogen. Singapore itself here is running a pilot project to import clean hydrogen. So some of these more advanced economies are looking to now invest into clean hydrogen. I'll just add that in terms of producers, we see India and also the Sarawak region of Malaysia as some of the very interesting players from where the hydrogen could be produced and sent to these countries.
So what's the plan to transport hydrogen from the supplier countries to the buyer countries? Which types of transportation do you see most promising?
Mostly, I think in Asia right now it would be shipping because we are really talking about long-term trade, and most favorable vector is going to be ammonia. And the focus is therefore on green ammonia transportation. And in terms of supply chain, we are looking at projects where developers are trying to see how they can repurpose the existing ammonia vessels or LPG vessels or order new vessels to make sure that the supply chain works.
And like in the past 2 days, I've heard some discussion around geopolitical or energy security. It seems that it's not only a topic in fossil fuel market nowadays. For new energies, clean technologies, we also saw this kind of trade disputes or energy independency concerns. So what's your view of this trend or phenomenon in today's market? Yeah.
So, energy security is almost always going to be the bedrock of any energy policy. So, I definitely am aware that there has been a bit of a discussion recently because of upheavals in the supply chains around securing energies from alternative sources. But I would say that energy security and clean energy go hand in hand. I think lots of the discussion is also how do we make sure that the countries now diversify their supply chains beyond the fossil fuel providing countries and invest in hydrogen, into EV, into offshore wind. So we are already seeing that clean energy and energy security goes hand in hand, I think, investments, and that's good for the overall sector.
How about like EV battery supply chains? Do you see those kind of supply chain security concerns also have an impact on investment?
So EV it's a much more interesting play. I think we did see in Europe a lot of capacity has been built to try and secure the supply or from energy security perspective. But the challenge with EVs is always that I think the EV adoptions for the car has not necessarily been significant. I would say there needs to be a lot more focus on public transportation. Like, for example, in India, we have recently financed EV buses, and we are looking to about 400 buses and going to triple that by end of the year. And to me, that is the exciting part where we can actually clean the public transportation and electrify. And I think that would help the sector to come up much better than waiting for EV adoption in the private car consumption market.
Okay, I think we've had lots of insights today as well. Do you have any last message to investors in front of the camera?
Yes, coming from a bank, I would like to say that the financing, I think it's a lot talked about, whether there is enough financing available for clean energy. I would like to assure all the investors that there is significant amount of financing and capital available. We at SMBC ourselves are very happy to also look at going up the risk curve and mirror the realities of the industries when we look at structuring these projects. I mean, we do a lot of work with our clients on bankability, ensuring maximum debt, cheaper cost of capital. So I welcome the industry to reach out to us, work with us, and ensure that we can deliver these clean energy projects at the best cost of capital.
Okay, thank you so much, Sid.
Thank you.